I've been prepping for 22 years. The most useful item in my kit cost me $2.40. I've never seen it in a survival magazine. I've never seen an influencer talk about it. And every time the grid goes down, I'm grateful I found it before I needed it. Here's who I am before we get into this. I started taking preparedness seriously in 2002. Since then, I've lived through 3 extended outages. The worst was 11 days after an ice storm collapsed the grid across 4 counties in January. Single digits outside. No municipal water. No cell service by day 3. I've also run 2 full weeks of off-grid simulation where nothing came from a store, a cell tower, or a utility line. I'm not ex-military. I'm not a television prepper. I'm someone who spent 2 decades treating this as an engineering problem. Buying things, stress testing them under real conditions, and throwing out what doesn't work. Here's what I kept. Item 1. Petroleum jelly and cotton balls. Not a branded fire kit, not a $45 magnesium striker in a camo pouch. A jar of petroleum jelly from any pharmacy, and a bag of cotton balls. Here's the technique. Take a cotton ball, coat it in jelly, pull the fibers slightly apart, strike a single spark. It catches immediately, and it burns 4 to 5 minutes with a low, wind-resistant flame. I tested this during that January outage. Fingers so cold I couldn't feel the tips, wind coming through gaps in a structure I was using for shelter. The petroleum jelly cotton ball lit on the first strike. Every time. 4 minutes is enough time to catch dry tinder in conditions most people would consider unworkable. A jar and a bag together cost under $3. They last years with 0 degradation. No membrane to unclog. No fuel canister to empty. No battery to drain. I've used the same jar for 6 years. The outdoor fire kit market sells strikers, tinder bricks, compressed sawdust pucks, and branded magnesium bars. I've tested most of them. Not one outperforms this. Most cost 10 to 15 times as much. Item 2. Potassium permanganate. Purple-black crystals. About $8 for a container that weighs almost nothing. Most people have never heard of it. I've used it to solve 3 separate problems with a single purchase. Water purification, 12 crystals dissolved in a liter of water, wait 30 minutes. Pathogens eliminated. I've used this during a boil advisory following a pipe failure in my county. It works. Wound disinfection. A more dilute solution becomes an antiseptic that outperforms most over-the-counter alternatives on contaminated cuts. I used it on a fairly deep laceration I got during a gear evaluation. Clean healing, no infection. Fire starting. Mix it with glycerin and the chemical reaction generates enough heat to ignite tinder without any spark or flame source. No lighter needed. No striker needed. 1 item. 3 problems. No expiration measured in months. No moving parts. The water filtration industry sells you ceramic filters, UV pens, pump systems, and chemical tablets. Everyone has an engineered failure point. Potassium permanganate has been a military field staple for over a century. It competes with 3 separate revenue streams simultaneously. That's why it stays off the consumer shelf. Item 3. Mylar emergency blankets. But not the foil sheet from the standard first aid kit. There are 2 versions. One costs $2 more. The difference is 5 layers versus 1 and a reflection rate of 92% versus 60%. That gap is not academic. That gap kills people. During the 11-day outage, I was sheltering with a group of 8. One of them, experienced hiker, physically fit, not a beginner, started showing early hypothermia signs on night 4. The shelter was dialed in. Air temperature was manageable, but he was losing heat through radiation in still air and not replacing it fast enough. We wrapped him in a quality Mylar blanket. 40 minutes later, he was stable. A standard foil sheet reflects 60% of radiated body heat. The military specification 5-layer version reflects 92. Those 32 percentage points are the difference between adequate and effective. 40 grams, under $5, 30 plus years in storage without degradation. The outdoor industry doesn't push it because it solves its problem on the first purchase and never needs replacing. Item 4. Light. The standard answer is rechargeable lanterns, USB headlamps, lithium battery packs. All of them share one failure point. Remove the grid and you have between 36 and 72 hours before you're in total darkness trying to source replacement batteries in an environment where supply chains are not operating. The answer I've settled on after years of testing is pure beeswax pillar candles, not paraffin, beeswax. A single 2-inch diameter pillar burns 40 to 60 hours. It doesn't drip. It doesn't produce the toxic combustion byproducts paraffin releases in enclosed, unventilated spaces. I tested this directly with an air quality monitor during a simulation. The difference was significant enough that I threw out every paraffin candle I owned. Beeswax doesn't degrade. Archaeologists have recovered it from sites thousands of years old, still chemically intact and still ignitable. A pack of 4 costs under $15. That's over 200 hours of reliable, non-toxic light. The $40 battery lantern next to it on the shelf gives you 60 to 70 hours before resupply. The math is not competitive. Item 5. A Fresnel lens paired with stormproof matches. The lens is flat, credit card sized, $3. No batteries, no fuel, no moving parts, no consumables at all. Position it in direct sunlight, and it concentrates solar energy to a focal point hot enough to ignite tinder in 3 to 8 seconds. I've used this specifically during a simulation where I deliberately left all conventional fire sources behind to test alternatives. It works. Every time. On day 1 and on day 10,000. Pair it with UCO stormproof matches. $10 for 25, each burning 12 full seconds in direct wind and rain. Military tested for 3 decades, and fire is covered under every conceivable condition. Sun available. Fresnel lens. No sun. Stormproof matches. No matches. Petroleum jelly cotton balls, and any spark source. One transaction. Problem solved completely. Fire, warmth, and light are handled. But there's a second category of risk that most prep lists address badly, and it's taken more people down in extended grid down scenarios than cold has. Isolation. Not the emotional kind, the tactical kind. The kind where you don't know if the threat is 2 miles away or 2 blocks away, and you have no way to find out and no way to tell anyone what you see. Item 6. Oil of oregano. Small brown bottle. Under $12 for a 2-ounce supply. I carry it because field medicine in an extended outage has one recurring problem: infection from cuts and abrasions that would be trivial with pharmacy access and catastrophic without it. The active compound in high-quality oregano oil, carvacrol, has demonstrated broad-spectrum antimicrobial activity in peer-reviewed research going back to the 1990s. It doesn't replace antibiotics for systemic infections. Nothing in this list pretends to do that. But for surface wounds, infected blisters, minor lacerations, abrasions that get dirty, it functions as a durable, non-expiring field antiseptic. I've used it on members of my group during the 11-day outage. Both healed without complication. A 2-ounce bottle lasts years. $8. 0 expiration. Item 7. A Baofeng UV 5R radio. Under $40. The radio itself isn't the innovation. The programming is. Most people who buy these never get past default frequencies. They're transmitting into empty air and receiving nothing useful. What I've done is program mine with hyperlocal frequency maps, municipal emergency frequencies, local repeater networks, NOAA weather channels, neighboring community GMRS channels, and then I mostly listen. Receiving costs you nothing in signal exposure. Transmitting on a standard analog FM radio is different. Every time you key it, you broadcast your location to every receiver within range. Anyone with directional equipment and basic triangulation can find you within minutes. You bought a communication tool. If you use it without thinking, you're carrying a flare. Programmed correctly and used primarily for receive. One Baofeng gives you more situational awareness than a month of scrolling. During my last extended simulation, I tracked a developing weather system, monitored a neighboring county's emergency frequency, and coordinated 4 households, all without touching a cell tower. Item 8. A hand-crank no-array emergency weather radio with shortwave receive capability. $15. No batteries required. No grid required. In any declared federal emergency, NOAA broadcasts continuous situation updates on 7 dedicated frequencies that operate independently of the commercial broadcast infrastructure. Most people don't know these frequencies exist until they've lost everything else. By then, it's too late to act on what's being broadcast. The shortwave capability expands this. International emergency broadcasts, amateur radio nets, maritime weather, air traffic communications. Information in a collapse is triage. It tells you whether to stay or move, whether water is compromised, whether roads are open. A $15 hand-crank radio gives you access to the only communication network specifically engineered to survive the failure of every other network. I've had mine for 14 years. It has never failed. Side note for those who want to take this further, look into Meshtastic mesh networks, open source, encrypted, $30 LoRa nodes that run on milliwatt power from a small solar panel. No central node means no central point to fail or shut down. I won't go deep today, but it belongs in the picture. Item 9. A laminated physical map of your county and the 2 adjacent ones. $4 at any gas station. I assumed the phone would work. It didn't. Not in any extended outage I've experienced. Cell towers run on backup generators with 8 to 24 hours of fuel. In a widespread failure, they go dark sequentially, starting with the highest traffic towers. Those are the towers in the areas where the most people need information most urgently. A paper map requires no satellites, no cell coverage, no charged battery, no app update. It survives water, heat, and daily use for 20 years. I've navigated around 2 road closures, a flooded main route, and an area with active emergency response, all using nothing but a paper map and my own eyes. The digital map on my phone was dark for all of it. Item 10 is not a product. It's a written, laminated, 2-page reference card, made by you, specific to your household and your geography. That documents your water sources, your communication plan, your rally points, your medical information, your frequency list, and your decision tree for the first 72 hours of a grid-down event. It takes about 2 hours to create. It never needs replacing. Here's why it matters. In an actual emergency, your cognitive load spikes. Things you know perfectly well right now become inaccessible under stress. Your hands are doing something. Someone is asking you a question. Something unexpected is happening that wasn't in the scenario you planned for. The document exists to carry the cognitive load so your attention stays on what's actually in front of you. Every item on this list is designed to solve a problem permanently. The document is what connects them into a system. Total cost of everything I've described, under $200. I've tested every item across multiple real scenarios and extended simulations across more than 2 decades. The pattern across all 10 items is the same: chemically stable, mechanically simple, analog where possible, designed to solve its problem completely, not to require a follow-up purchase, a battery replacement, or an upgrade cycle. The survival industry isn't hiding these items. It's just very good at being louder than they are. Buy the 10 items, make the document, then stop buying things and start practicing with what you have. That's the part nobody sells you. and it's the only part that actually matters.